This program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised.
I was actually in 1984 teaching in Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh. Curfew was imposed. By chance, I was in Amritsar during those times. When curfew was imposed, I could not come back. So I was lucky enough to visit the Golden Temple when it was temporarily opened after about 2 days of the Operation Bluestar. So I could actually see the devastation and the blood around, the crying people, and therefore they quickly closed it again, seeing the popular and the emotional reaction of the population. So they used it as a military operation. It was not a civilian operation. So there must be an order to the army unit, please, to the chief of staff, that you flush out everything. And the army when the army operation started, they treated everybody as enemies. So for enemies, you don't have warrants, you don't have anything. Then they just did it. And therefore, they have no legal document to justify it. They should have actually taken the permission of the area magistrates. They should have disclosed, and the army help should have been sought by civilian authorities. The civilian authorities actually can seek army aid for maintaining law and order. For such kind of operation, if it would have come within it should have been entrusted to the Punjab police or the Punjab civil administration. And the way they did it later on, Black Thunder operation was that way a brilliant success. So why could they not do the same way for Bluestar if the object was to just flush out the militants? Ultimately, it was a close confinement. It was a closed environment. You have already fortified the premises. How long the people could live without water, without electricity, without food? And then there's so large a number of pilgrims within. So their food required quickly, everything will get exhausted. So it could have been done in a much more humane way if they wanted. But if the idea is to teach a lesson, if the idea is to do a spectacular action, if the idea is to have a large impact on the rest of the country, then this is the way they do it. But then how much the nation as a whole lost? 20 years of subsequent bloodshed is directly related to this action. They have declared a dead body in the corner. You could see clotted blood, which they have they had hurriedly cleaned up the whole premises. But ultimately, when you hurriedly clean up, there's so much patches left. So you could see, actually, you could smell blood. You could actually smell blood and see corners between the walls where they have overlooked all kind of signs of lot of killing having taken place. That famous picture has now come out, that Akal Takht in shambles. That picture is everywhere. That was an exact scene at that time. Somebody must have clicked it on that day only. Akal Takht was actually in shambles. And the rest of the atmosphere was like a cremation ground. Wailing people, women screaming, children of course not there, and a large amount of police force everywhere, so that you are a little bit of fearful also of expressing your emotions completely, and in a state of shock. Unable to comprehend that how could such a thing happen, especially those who used to go to Golden Temple every day. They have seen it. Last time they seen it was splendor, and it was actually the devastation was to everybody's, because the news was otherwise. The news being relayed in the newspapers and the television was that nothing much has happened. Few people have died. The Darbar Sahib is no more. That is all the news was. But what actually went was, you find the enormity of it, and at that time even I knew the impact was going to last for a long time. It was going to last, and it actually lasted a long time. Pillars gone, marble gone, absolutely. The rest is always repaired afterwards. All walls were mutilated, all pillars, except the central shrine, was not showing any sign of damage, but rest all around were black walls and not 1,000 bullet marks. And not small bullets, not where they take away the chip of the Beko. Never compiled a list of people killed. You see, the least you could do it, that ultimately you have done an operation, you have dead bodies. Would you not even count them? Would you not preserve the photograph? That is a normal, ordinary police procedure. If somebody has died unnaturally, then the body is to be given to the family. It is to be, a report is to be made. What is the nature of injury he has died or she has died? Then the photographs to be taken and a legal papers to be prepared, and then post-mortem is to be conducted. No such procedure was followed. So when you don't follow a procedure, that is sure that something other must-haves of large scale must have happened. So the official figures, no, the community did not accept those figures. And therefore, when you don't give a correct information, then the large number of misinformation also gets circulated. So people actually have very, very shocking accounts of it, that nobody was allowed to go out. They were indiscriminately killed. Then bodies were just dumped and burnt. And therefore, we don't even have the official figure of people killed. How many were pilgrims? How many were militants? How many were with arms? How many were children? How many were saved? How many were actually rescued? Who were injured? None of these figures were preserved. Why? Why should you keep a secret of dead bodies? So therefore, I am inclined to believe that it was a vindictive action. It was given in the spirit of teaching a lesson to any independent and rebellious community who wants to preserve their identity. Such kind of lessons are always given by authoritarian rulers, and that mold the lesson was not. And with the support of the rest of the country, they created such a mass hype that the country supported the government of the day, and they were able to get away with it. And now the documentation with the next generation has started. The documentation, the major documentation, is actually starting now, and most of them by the youngsters who are living abroad. So that's very heartening. They are now preserving a piece of history which was almost lost. And therefore, it's very encouraging what work you are doing. I had no idea that Golden Temple will play such an important role on the psychology of the Sikhs, because my family was not really a religious family. It was more of a grandfather was a communist. He was congressman before independence. He was in jail. After independence, he became a member of the Communist Party. He was still remained in jail. So more or less, he died as a member of the Communist Party, a Marxist. My father was more or less also an activist of that kind. Till in 1984, he turned truly. It had an emotional impact on him, and to some extent on me also. And first time I found that such kind of places are really sacred, and no political party or establishment should tinker with them. Least of all the kind of attack, even if there is some provocation, there's so many other ways to deal with it than a kind of military attack. And therefore you can actually follow the follow-up. It was traumatic for almost everybody. And a large number of friends actually started sporting with the Sikh attire after 1984. Otherwise, before 1984, it was large. We were losing our movement to that extent. It has brought back the community into focus, and the realization that their identity is not something, it's a gift of God. It can go away. It can be under attack. They have to defend it. They have to preserve it. To that extent, that is the silver lining, even of a bad thing.